That's because I think the city feels like it's important that the community in this area gets what they want. They don't want to just have the city run in there and develop something that they think that people want. So this process that you see here is a time-consuming process to make sure that it's done right, to make sure that the voices are heard, and I believe and wholeheartedly that Bennett and the city, if that method has not gotten to you, it's getting to you now, and I think it will continue to get better. So we will take as long as it is to make sure that this park is, again, for the neighborhood surrounding Chickasaw. So a case study very different from this is a city close by, not in Louisville, wanted to develop a park and get it in as fast as possible. I developed that park in 4 months, and it started being implemented in 6 months from there after construction drawings. So what you see from that example to what we're doing here is a complete opposite of that process. Was one community meeting. The administration and the leadership of that community saw what they wanted, they implemented what they wanted, and had one reveal session. This is very different than what you're seeing here, and I think it's wonderful. I think this is what needs to happen all the time. So I think we're on the right track, and please be vocal like you are to tell us if you see something here that should not be here or should be here. Please be vocal either during this event, and we're going to be here afterwards taking notes to make sure that your voices are heard. So this is a process, and we're working through that. So
I'm still looking for my skate pad.
Your skating pad?
Yeah.
You're talking about roller skating, right?
Roller skating.
Okay.
See, up from Dallas and over in the parts in Atlanta, around the urban parts of Atlanta and Dallas, and they've got these huge sidewalk plans for, well, even in California,
The boardwalks.
they skate the boardwalks, Well, in Dallas and in Atlanta, they skate around the park, and the sidewalks are smooth and they're wide. So you have all of these people, from old and young and teenagers, all of them are skating around the park, and there's music in the background.
There is an effort to bring the Louisville Loop from Shawnee Park. Right now it goes on the road on Southwestern Parkway there. It is planning right now, and actually at the design stages, I believe, to go into the park, into Chickasaw, and there is actually right away to get it off the road, so you will be able to go, it's in the works, from Chickasaw to Shawnee with the Louisville Loop, and then connect those two parks.
That portion of the Louisville Loop from Portland down to Shawnee Park is basically non-existent.
It's not funded to restore that. We definitely want to get that open.
So that puts a cyclist on the street in danger.
No, you're exactly right. That's a sore point right now. We definitely need to get that fixed up. But so if I could, so we want to go through the amenities here. We were supposed to be done by 7:30, so I want to try to stay to that so the security guard can kick us out here. So I'm going to let Matt go into more detail on the design.
So from here, like I talked about, and getting explanations of where we were at this point, and getting the community input. We're at this point right now. So you can see it's gotten a little bit more concrete, a little bit more firmed up. Started putting some dimensions to things rather than floating them and just creating a vision. We're actually starting to put this in a little bit more of a concrete mold to see how this would actually fit. We've got a survey, how that fit on the survey, and how it reacted. So I'll take this in two different areas. So the process, for those that you don't know, is an area that is from the basketball courts. If you draw a straight line east-west from that basketball court, everything's south of there. So that's the area that we are touching as part of this plan. And Bennett's passing around a smaller version of these two plans so you can see what I'm pointing at. So the pond itself We look at this as a brand new amenity for the park, a brand new invention that will recreate what this park is used for, how the residents will be interacting with the park, having more age groups involved with the park, and seeing different activities that aren't seen there currently. So the pond itself is about 1 acre, maybe a little bit less, and it's 1.5 foot depth at its max, I believe. The idea is to actually dredge that pond and create a larger pond that can be utilized from several different standpoints. So this shape that you see here is actually different than the shape that's there currently right now. And so we are able, with the help of MSD, to recreate a new shape for that pond and allow different activities to take place on that pond. And these activities that we've placed on here, one, are adhering to the Frederick Law Olmsted morals of what he thought a park should be in terms of being a natural park, a place where you bring people to it and interact, not something that you create from manufactured pieces. It's a place where it's a naturalistic zone. And we've worked with the Olmsted Conservancy on that. So you can see that the shape is very, very organic because of that, along with the activities that will be placed on this pond are done in a fashion that is not, it doesn't feel very it's trying not to feel completely man-made, but yet introducing new activities on it. So if you start from the roadway, and I'll work myself north, new parking so that people can actually access it other than parking along the road or parking in the grassway. So implementing actual access to this pond area was important to the people. And then from there, actually creating pathways and zones around the pond. So right now there's, I think, one path that doesn't circulate the pond at all, but goes in and near the pond. So actually creating additional pathways, both long and short, that intercirculate around the entire pond and then connect to the existing pathways on site. So I'm going to hold off questions just to the end if you don't mind, so I can get through just the whole concept itself. And then, introducing those pathways. And off those pathways, you'll see different activity zones. And those zones will fluctuate depending on what we hear tonight or just based on trying to save trees or things like that. So one of those activities is creating additional fishing spaces. So as we dredge the pond, we want to create some depth to allow for better fish habitat. So the depth will range from 6 to 12 feet. So at summer months, the fish can be in the colder areas of the pond. In winter, they can go or I guess winter, there's also deeper areas so they don't get frozen or things like that or harmed. But either way, creating a depth that is capable to sustain fish life, along with working with the Fish and Wildlife to allow for a stocking area. So this pond will be stocked with fish on a regular basis. And I'm not sure how many times a year, but they've told us that they're going to stock fish on a regular basis with several different types of fish every year that will be able to be, so the pond maintains fish activity and can be caught. So we've located the number 4 that you see on the plan are fishing areas that we see best located for casting, which are one, safe, so you're not hooking somebody when you're casting, or just away from just general activity, along with providing an actual path, so you're not getting your feet wet or slipping into the pond itself. So having some stability. We also created another zone. We've heard that both adults and children want to have some sort of canoe or kayak ability. So creating a docking area for kayaks and canoes to launch from, both a typical kayak launch and ADA. So we're making sure that all abilities are able to utilize this pond. along with a zone that can get the kayaks from the roadway safely to the pond itself. Again, another amenity that we've seen from the community that they wanted. As you travel around the pond, there's some small picnic areas that are seen here, along with a promenade that is used for more of an educational piece. So bird watching, there's some wonderful bird life that's actually on the pond currently, along with any kind of aquatic life that's on there, turtles, fish, possibly salamanders, and other sorts of bugs and insects as well. And then encapsulating that with some a nice plant life that is used for an educational piece. All these paths then connect to the Louisville Loop itself. So we're trying to incorporate a long path and then interconnect that with some of the short paths around there. And then also, so there's an island that I'm sure you're familiar with. Actually utilizing that island as an amenity. So creating a bridge to it and utilizing that as possibly a fishing zone or just another peaceful spot to bird watch or just sit and read a book. So again, incorporating some more activities that we heard from the community that they thought would be nice to have. Outside that pond activity area, we've created another trail that breaks up and creates some zones for some additional picnicking area, flat land for just passive recreation, things like that you'll see around this area, keynoted number 6. So created a couple of those zones around there. So that is the basis around the pond. So you see a lot of different activities, but really intermixed very naturally with the pond. We're trying to do that. This area right here is the levee. So one of the questions was, we're getting a lot of soil from the pond, what to do with that soil. And from the responses that we heard from our community meetings is actually placing the soil against the flood wall or the levee to create some sort of aesthetic and another activity zone. So being able to walk from that low area near the pond up onto the levee and having another walking zone with an overlook. So just another space that is created out of what we can do with this pond spot. So that pretty well covers that pond area. Again, I'll answer questions once I get through the forest play area. So the next is the forest play area. So this is a really exciting zone that new communities are doing. So a lot of kids are kind of hooked on electronics or not going out or they don't have the ability to get out into nature and just explore naturally. So that's what these forest play areas are emulating. And the idea of actually encapsulating a forest play area along with internally in an actual riverbank forested area is really exciting. So just where the placement of this is not a typical forested play area because it's actually in and among the forest. So it's a true forest play area. And I'll just work myself from the parking lot, which is basically up here. So here's Chickasaw Road, Chickasaw Park Road. Yep.
You just mentioned, because we have the diagram the way it is, as it shows no truth, but this is intended to be in the shade of truth. So
Yes.
This represents, not, it's a necessary representation, but it doesn't truly
Yes.
reflect that.
So there's a lot of, I was going to get to that too, but there is a large amount of trees here. We are going to try to preserve the maximum amount of trees that are in that area because that's very important in nature play. In order to,
The parking lot next to the pavilion.
I missed that.
This is taking away the parking.
No, this is, you know the road that went down to the old road?
Yes.
Is it what went down to the boat down?
Yes.
It's a shelter.
The shelter is.
Back in the north, it's a living area, it's off to the, there's 200 park.
Yes, the parking lot.
Yeah. You know where the road goes around, goes right up over the top of the
Does everyone understand where this location is? So the old boat ramp down So the parking lot's up here. So we still want to utilize that boat ramp, and there's a hill that actually that goes up to a plateaued area, and that's where this would be located. So if you're working your way from that parking lot, having a new path that comes into that plateaued area, and then from there, we're working 3 separate zones with an ADA route circulating around the whole thing. So there's ADA access to all the different amenities that are seen in each individual play area. So the play zones that the 3 zones that we have, we're calling the one for toddlers, creeks, critters, and kitchen zone, which is the first zone that you see right off the parking lot. Zone 2 is your biggest zone, ages 4 to 12. Calling it the Chickasaw Mountain. We're just giving some fun names to it. And then Zone 3, ages 12 and up, calling it the Ropes Course Challenge. So each zone is designed to allow for different age groups to interact with it in appropriate measures. Not saying that a 12-year-old couldn't go down here and interact, but these areas are a little bit more challenging to navigate or have some more interest for older children. So this Zone 1, also, I'm sorry, before I get to that zone, there is a traversing dry creek that goes through the entire nature play zone and outlets by a new bioswale at the end of that intermits with the existing boat ramp, and then outlets into a bioswale that goes out to the river. So that kind of traverses the whole thing, and then it starts in Zone 1. So that area we see as an area for children to go and kind of explore the rock creek in the bed if it's wet or if it's dry. And then having things like outdoor kitchens where they can collect bugs or other things seen in the forested area, and doing whatever their heart's desire, from mixing things with sticks or mixing mud pies, things like that. And also just an open free play area is also seen in this area. Again, just trying to entice imagination, letting whatever in the area, whatever happens up in their head and you can do in that area, just kind of letting their hearts go, or letting their play minds go. Also, this area is a shade structure so we are going to have to probably take down some trees to allow for this play area, so there will be more sun coming in here. So we are allowing some shade structures for parents to sit under. If you go to the next zone, this is a pretty exciting zone, I thought. And again, these are all things that we went through with the community that they saw they were encouraged by, that they like to see here. This zone here is it's for the ages 4 to 12, but in this zone, it's a big hill that would be created, and that hill would incorporate different ways to get up on top of the hill. ADA path, just general grass slope, rock climbers, ropes, log climbers, things like that to get to a plateau at the top of the hill. And at the top of the hill, we're planning on trying to create an overlook that overlooks the river. So imagine being out in this open area and then seeing beautiful views of the river, and not only the river, but all of the wildlife that's there along with it. And actually, I heard something tonight from one of the community members that it would be great to have some educational pieces at that station, so that you could see what types of bird life are actually that you might see in and amongst the river and in the trees themselves. So I thought that was a great idea that I think would be well worth implementing here. So this zone, even though it's 4 to 12, I think a lot of older people would definitely utilize this just in natural play with their kids. But certainly with the children itself. This zone is definitely meant for children, but we've incorporated some areas for parents as well, either sitting and watching their children or just enjoying the natural wildlife and vegetation that's around the river itself. Also in this zone that's kind of intermixed between Zone 1 and Zone 2 is a sensory garden. Again, another educational piece or something you've seen recently as a way to interact with your natural environment through all your different senses. Going to the next zone, zone 3, looking at it as your general ropes course. This piece would be some manufactured pieces, some natural pieces that would be here. So lots of climbing activities, lots of swinging, letting people utilize their general abilities to whatever they think they can do in this area from ages 12 and up. But certainly, obviously, if someone from 5 and 6 year olds could easily use this to interact with their brother or sister. And that's in that zone 3. So overall, there's those 3 progression zones, but everything's kind of, we tried to tie everything together, utilizing that creek and then having intermixing either outlooks or bench areas so that parents can interact with the kids or sit and watch or just enjoy. So I think that takes me through the design from this standpoint. Ben, do you have anything to add before I open up for questions?
We are trying to end by 7:30. I'm not sure what they're going to do at the various 7:30 point, so I think we wanted to at this point just really open up for questions. And I know we're just committed to sticking around. The kids have a building, I'm sticking around outside, and we definitely want to make sure everybody signs their email up. So we want to get information and be able to interact with folks that are here. So we just want to commit to that. So just we'll take questions.
I'll just go from my left to right. So, yes.
It seems to me like you already got your agenda well put together. And I don't think that if we were to say, no, we don't want none of that, I'm sure that you're not going to stop your productions just because we don't want it anymore. I don't think there is no use for us to even try to get involved in it now because as I heard, this will not be the last, if anything. The other thing that I'd like to add is, I hear a whole lot of what you said, community input, and since we don't have the right communication in our West End or to be able to be in these meetings, I'm wondering what community input do you have to be able to put this together?
I think it came from neighborhood associations, right?
It came from a lot of different, so we had surveys online, we had the community meeting at the park itself on that Sunday, where we had surveys there, we took input from notes, we had dots that we stuck up and pins and things like that said,
Those were
what's your
neighborhood
favorite?
associations that showed up?
No, it was the entire community.
It was the entire.
Well, not the entire, but everyone that was there that Sunday.
Well,
But we sent out flyers to make sure.
I want to make sure we get other questions, but can you make a suggestion on what you would have liked to have seen in terms of Albert? What is the way to reach you that we missed?
No, I mean, it really don't matter for real. I don't believe it matters now, you know what I'm saying?
Well, it does matter. Do you have an opinion about whether you like this? What would you want to see? And we hope you'll give you that comment. I mean, if folks don't want this, that tells us pretty clearly what we're going. So we want that feedback. I mean, so give us that feedback. If we hear people don't want this.
Keeps the kids from wandering off into the forest.
I think that's the point is that they do wander
I
off.
want to make sure we get other. We only have a few
Wander
minutes.
off into the forest.
Well, not with parent supervision, but I think being close to that area, they're gonna wander outside just the boundary there to collect sticks, to see what's out there and
And
interact.
that's the Ohio River, I mean, the trees, I'm talking about wandering off into the wooded trees and you want them to go through the trees?
Well, it's no different really than what you've got down by the playground. It's a similar, there is no barrier other than, it's a wooded area to keep kids from going. It's much like what is down further with the other, the more regular playground. So it's not really different. But I want to make sure we got a few other folks.
We've been here a whole long, a long time, and every time somebody comes from somewhere, out of space somewhere, to want to put something in our neighborhoods and whatnot, you know what I'm saying? And even if we don't want it, it's just take it to us any kind of way, you know what I'm saying? So that's the reason I say,
Well, if your comments, if you don't want it, want to make sure you register that, that's a definite comment that you want to get.
What is a bioswale, and are you planning, this was a dock, boat dock area or access road right next to your forest play, was it?
Well, it used to be.
Yeah,
It's
so
not-
I'm asking, are there any plans to make that boat dock later on? I think you had one started for Shawnee.
That's
Is that
right.
correct? Yeah.
So a bioswale is just a way to manage stormwater runoff in a natural way. So it's, instead of like a concrete ditch, you would use that and use native plants to absorb some of the water and treat it kind of before it goes elsewhere. So we did do, I've had a number of plans that looked at boat ramps. Metro Parks commissioned a study to look at Shawnee and Chickasaw, which, what's the actual feasibility of doing a boat ramp. And then as part of our project, we want to take a second look at that. So what the basic conclusion right now is a boat ramp at Chickasaw. If you've been down that area, you see how steep it is, and take that and compare that to Shawnee. Shawnee's much more gentle. The cost of putting in a boat ramp at Chickasaw is really much higher. But we wanted to at least look at what other options. Maybe it isn't a full-blown boat ramp, but maybe there could be a canoe launch, which wouldn't require as much infrastructure. So we looked at that in our plan. What we have right now going on, because we really do want to stabilize the situation below this area, the riverbank is eroding. And so we are actually talking to U.S. Corps of Engineers to try to get them to fund a process for stabilizing that bank. Some of that work's already been done in Chickasaw. If you're familiar with the work that went on about 7-8 years ago. So we didn't make it this cycle, but next year we're trying to get the Corps of Engineers to pay for an initial feasibility study. And if we get that feasibility gets done and they say it's potential, then they will potentially fund with federal money with a local match, getting that whole riverbank stabilized. And unfortunately, we're talking riprap, not like an ideal or natural situation, but over time trees can grow up through that and it can become more natural. So if that happens, then we can come back later and think about how can we reopen that shelf down there. Where does that road lead to? It leads to this wonderful shelf. You can hike down there and you don't mind, it's a little treacherous at this point, but if you get back in, it's just beautiful.
It's real treacherous.
The bioswale,
The bioswale is incorporated into this project. That's really what the grant part of it was funding. So we are working with SummerWorks kids this year, and if you're familiar with SummerWorks, these are kids from the neighborhood that we're trying to recruit from our ECHO program. We're trying to make this pathway for kids from Westwood who can get experience and resume building experience and do projects. So one of them is coming here. Last year they removed invasive species and we got all the litter out. If you walked that shelf last year, it was covered with a foot of trash. This year that's gone. And so that's one of the things we're doing. That as a part of this project is trying to create a small bioswale just to solve some drainage and give some kids some experience. So it's important.
I just have 3 concerns. One is there's an existing walking path around the park. Has the flooding been addressed for that? Because that's one of the issues that people like to walk around the park, but despite this rain, will flood the walking area. So hopefully that will be addressed. And also the exercise equipment for adults, if that could be improved, or the exercise equipment around the park for adults, if that could be improved, since the focus is really on youth. But there's a lot of adults and seniors in our community too that would like to have use of the park. 2, the island. You said creating a bridge there. Is there anything? Yeah, I mean, they have to typically kind of a wildlife refuge for this area, so we're looking to exclude that for the birds, or
Not necessarily. It was actually a little bit open.
What would you, I mean, this is, again, you have this opportunity. What would you like to see done?
if you're gonna have, because you're gonna have more activity around the park, that would probably be the only place where the wildlife could have its own refuge. So I think it should just remain as an island. That's just my impression. And then 2, the soil, the removal of the soil is one of the concerns is the soil may be contaminated, and removing it from the pond into some other area of the park will put people at greater exposure. Is that been addressed, or an issue that could be addressed?
Well, we've so got those comments registered. We have, just had a process on as far as the soil. It's a lot to talk to now. I'll make sure this one of the questions, but we basically what is the testing results have shown is that we have safe conditions, and so the state has given us a letter of no further action required.
And on that basis, and on the basis of feedback we got from the community, the decision has been made to take that soil and put it on site with the caveat that we're going to continue the testing. And so that slide, if you came in, you can see that we have outlined based on conversations we had in our stakeholder meetings and last meetings where we presented this information to the public. So we've got agency folks here today, and so we come up with a plan to continue testing of fish tissues, sediments, and water quality to demonstrate safe conditions. So that's what we're proposing to do.
And to answer another point about the flooding issues, part of dredging that soil, we can actually create areas to level out some areas so it actually flows better and gets some of that flooding issue gone. It won't be throughout the entire park, but certainly areas around this area, this section of park will be addressed so that so some of those flooding issues would start going away.
Yeah, the bioswale that comes out of the pond will carry that runoff to the river, so we actually have an outlet now for that water overflow to go, so it's not going to be creating flooding conditions like it can in the past. Plus, it's fed by Louisville Water Company, and the valve was open when it shouldn't have been, so that's just a basic maintenance issue that we're going to solve too. So, okay, do you want the mic?
I would emphasize that someone's already said it, that the shelf at Shawnee Park, it is beautiful, but it floods a lot. And that's something you need to keep in mind. I used to ride my bike down there and watch it just flood it, make a mess. At the top it didn't, but down at the shelf it did. The other comment I want to make, or suggestion, is that there's been a lot of consultants over the years that's come, and I was working in government at one point. Well, that sounds weird. At one point when they had some consultants coming from Boston who were looking at the Ohio River, and one of the things that they said was that Shawnee and Chickasaw had some of the most gorgeous views of the Ohio River in Jefferson County. And although I noticed that you do have a couple of points on your maps with overview, I don't know how big they are, but it would be wonderful if you could identify some places, particularly where the river bends. It is beautiful. And most of the time, sometimes it's like someone, and I guess the budget cuts the trees and then they let it fill in and builds it for a long time. But I mean, we have some views that are far more beautiful than what's at Chickasaw Park. And people my age, young people, anybody would want to stop and look at those views. And so if we could identify some views and then put some seating there, and nothing more than just a few people. It'd be a gathering place for people my age, young people, anybody. But they're beautiful views, and so I don't think we should waste it if we have the opportunity and money to put into making the most out of this. The Ohio River is beautiful, and I only live about a block away. I can see a little bit of the river from my house, so I see the boats and things, and the fog coming in. I mean, sometimes it's just mesmerizing what you can see, and so please find a way to incorporate that and enough seating for quite a few people to chill out and just view, just sit down and appreciate what I call God's power, because nothing's more powerful than the water, the ocean, and all those things. That's God's power.
Absolutely. That's actually one of Project Longstead's theories. You bring people to those natural places and let them see some of the just general beauty that's already here. Why try to recreate it?
So can I ask you, given what you see in terms of the overlook that we have in two particular areas that are also identified as overlooks, so we're trying to be responsive to that with this design. The scope of our grant really, you can see from that diagram, only kind of went to the parking lot area. We can go much east, so we're not looking at the rest of the park. That's just the nature of the funding we have. I will say, related to your comment, one of the things we're trying to do with this project, when we talk about this pathway for kids,
we're trying to create, the next generation of stewards, and we want people to, this particular area of the park has been unloved for decades, and so this will open it back up. It's the kind of comment you're making, we hope we're gonna hear more of it, and we're gonna have advocates for it. And moreover than that, we're trying to create positions for folks to come in and work for parks who have a passion for all the parks. So, and I know that's not an immediate answer, but, one part of the problem with this particular park is it's been maintained in that area. So we haven't had an entity that has taken over responsibility for that woodland on a daily basis. And when we start talking about coming in, this is why we don't do it. You said, we take down the trees, we create an overlook, and then that's it. There's no maintenance of it. And it does take maintenance, it does take money, it does take staff, and that's where we have a problem as a department of keeping up with those overlooks. Cox's Park is different because it's pretty much open river. So that's the challenge we have, just being honest on the answer. But so I'm hoping, at least for this project, we are being in tune with what you're saying.
Well, like on this park right here, I live back here in this neighborhood, 4 doors from the park. Along here, there's nothing. There's nothing. There's nothing there. There's no observation area unless you just stand, There's a little piece of concrete right there. But, if you had a picnic area and then a place to overlook the river, and then the river wall is receding, is falling into the river all along here.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's
So, if you could do something where people can watch the river and things like that. They have one picnic table right over here and it's been gone now for the last 2 years.
And you heard the comment about the shoreline and what we're trying to do with quarantine.
Yeah.
So,
I hope you do.
that would help.
Before I pass on,
And on the different, I know that where the boat ramps, down there where the boat ramp was, and on that side, is what you're talking about is up above that. Now, the hut, is right before you get there.
You talking about the shelter?
The shelter.
Yeah.
You're talking about the hut. When this is 3 years ago. And so I'm saying that if we could revamp the hut to make it blend in with everything, the shelter. I was gonna say the shelter. The shelter, so that they can utilize the shelter. Just say, if we have an activity for this phase 1, 2, and 3, what you're talking about, and then we have some type of community gathering where we could use the shelter, and how they used to, and when I was a child, they would open it up on Sundays after church. Our parents would go there, have picnic baskets, and we would have a line all the way to the middle of the park. And everybody would play together, they would share food, and we would swing, and the parents would fish, and different things like that. And then the hut or the shelter would be open, and they would have soft serve ice cream, slushies, and popcorn every Sunday. And then, if someone wanted to rent it maybe for a family reunion or a lodge meeting, they have lodge meetings in there. And now it's gone under repair and disrepair, it's like it's just kept, but it's not kept up. So if that could be revitalized as part of that, because you can't have a beautiful phase 1, 2, and 3 and a tore down hut.
So I'm gonna, if we're buying the bus, it's not that way, but there is a master plan for the park. There are other elements that we don't include in our project that are part of the master plan. Homestead Park and Services is the partner that raises funds to support master plan implementation. So that might be something we're looking at. But in terms of what we're trying to do with this project, activating
this area of the park around the pond, activating the area in this nature area is gonna create more activity, more good activity, I guess, more youth and family activity, so, you know, I think that can be a catalyst for bringing back the kind of thing we talk about, if we all work together to make it happen, so. That wonderful, I don't think the microphone will reach, can you speak up?
I don't know how to talk about it now. I like the idea of the area for kids. However, is there another park that has something similar? I'm concerned about supervision of kids, and do they come in after hours, and is it going to be well lit?
Yeah, that's a great question. So lighting is not part of that nature plan, so we would have to have policies on that as a parks department. Again, it comes back to activating the park. There's a whole discussion going on nationally right now with climate change, global warming, of getting parks activated at night. You know, other than lighting around the pond area, you know, the nature player does not, so we would have to definitely be off limits after hours, so that would be an issue. But in terms of what other parks have, this is something happening all across the community. We've got it out in the forest, Barnham's got it, there's parks going in Parklands, I believe, has it. I'm not sure which Homestead Parks have it, but maybe was it Victory? Is that part of the Victory project?
Victory, we're doing free play. Tyler, we have.
So this is nature plays as the thing, and it's happening all over the country, and all over too. So trying to make sure it's all across the city. Right. So we do have that as part of the pond area that.
You inviting.
Okay, well, let's make that comment.
To be in the shade and behind trees and in the dark.
So the kitty area, in the winter time, how useful is it?
Yeah, that's, we have experienced that at Jefferson Wolf Forest, and so other than just a few of the coldest months, you know, that's when you know, get in the dead of January. But you can see even right now, the way our winters go, there are opportunities to bring us down.
We've been blessed out there, winter spectacular. I mean, I think that when it ices up, the function of the youth that the kids now come to happen than anything else. The park's not going to happen, it's just certain areas that's beneficial.
So I can answer some of that. So we're actually seeing more well-rounded and yearly activity at these types of parks because it's not made of materials that get really cold or get really hot. They're natural material. The wood that you see out just naturally are used to create some of the elements here: earth, grass, stones. So the idea behind this is actually being able to use it year long and having it actually a little bit more safe than your normal play zone because it's just climbing over ground and using the elements that you see all over the place. So doing the research and seeing places that have installed these nature play zones, they're utilized even more than a common play structure because a common play structure that has a plastic slide is dangerous in the winter because it gets iced over or wet, whereas a nature play zone has boulders and log climbs and things like that. So kids are more inventive and they climb and they do things that are just naturally fun versus having to be told you should do this. Does that make sense?
So, you know, I'm past that first, but I haven't kicked this out yet. So, any other questions? And we can take time to.
Yeah, I just want to know what is your target date of trying to have this done?
Well, done. So done, because if done means the grant and the design drawings. Well, we're hoping to have that done in spring. So that's the goal.
And then the work.
Well, so the work. So that what we have done at Parks is we have and we have a whole budget process. There's a lot of needs, but we have put in a request to Parks folks that this project be included in Parks budget request to the mayor. I would say we have a letter from all 5 Metro Council members in West Louisville in support of this project, and so that carries some weight. I mean, we will have to see how the budget plays out, but we are hoping that we will have funding in this year's metro budget for a portion of this project. And then, there's always the need to raise private funds, so that's something that we're looking at as a department too, partnerships to make that happen. And so I can't commit to funding this year. We've been successful with grants. We're going to keep trying. I will say, we just found out about another grant the other day, Outdoor Legacy Program grant. It's part of the Land and Water Conservation Fund. That's an avenue, so we're looking at that right now for this project. So we're just continuing to plug away, and hopefully we can get the funding. If we get the funding this cycle, or next year, we could be in construction in a year and a half or so. Can't commit to that. We just got to work through that process. So, Sarah Wolf, anybody have comments? Question?
Well, I was just curious about the budget request. Was it for a certain amount for the first phase of a project, or was this the full?
Well, like I said,
just to clarify, so folks set expectations.
Yeah, we put in a placeholder based on what I mentioned earlier. We thought the project value about $1.5 million for the pond, $2 million to do everything. Like I said, we put in a request for a general amount. We can't commit to any of that in terms of what might actually come through. But as part of the design process, we will get a better, firmer estimate here in the spring. That gives us time to send a refined request to Metro and see if that makes it in the process. There are a lot of competing, you all know, a lot of competing budget priorities, so there's no guarantee on that.
So as I look at this, you started in 2001. It's already 2020. You got a 20-year process, and guess what I'm taking from it. Let's say we get it done within the next 5 years. Every day we pick next 5 years. So it's take 25 years to get the Shawnee Park done, and we couldn't come up with $2.3 million over a 25-year period. I kind of find that totally incredible for going on a low. To me, that shows the lack of commitment and care that the city has had for the West End, because this project has been done a long time ago. And we're talking about 2020 right now. And if I give you all another 4 more years, maybe 25 years, you all can start, hopefully finish. To me, it's a lack of concern for people and residents that live in the West End and around the surrounding area and the Chickasaw Park area. And I'm hoping that you all push this thing through, because we're talking about a small amount of money in comparison to all the other projects they have around the local metro area. So I'm really pushing you all to do something, because the West End is the last that they take care of. And I can say that because if I was to say that I am a visitor that comes to Louisville, Kentucky, and I want to go in the West End, I want to spend my money. Can you name one thing in the West End that I can spend my money on if I'm coming from out of town? Let me help you out. Shawnee Golf Course. That's the only thing.
That's for private hands. That's no longer city property, my understanding. So Shawnee is.
So they take that out. There's nothing there.
Thank you for the comment, Amir.
I think with the 25-year period, we need to look at some leadership from that time who's not present tonight. And with the decimation of information, some of the people on those committees, some of us heard about it late and we tried to have events, but there are certain people who have not stood out until this week. But they need to be held accountable and called out on that live next to us or live near us, or we've known them since they were little. I'm just saying. Now, my question or comment was, I know that some people here who are very informed about the chemical concerns with the pond, also with the fish replenishing, and I just wanted to make sure that people here got a chance to know that they're present and have a chance to speak to them.
Yeah, we did mention we have agency folks present, so introduce yourselves, and you've been involved some much longer than others.
Dave Osmond, so I'm with the.
Oh, yeah.
Don't hide. I'm Dave Osmond. I'm with the Kentucky Fish and Wildlife. I'm the urban fisheries biologist for Kentucky. So I'm a fisheries biologist. I'm also on the fish contaminant committee with the state, so I meet with the Fish and Water, Public Health, and make decisions on fish consumption advisories around the state. But I oversee the Fishing in Neighborhoods program, which is a program that we try to bring fish to people close to where they live, provide opportunities to get people out, get them fishing, and have a good chance of success when they go out to catch fish every time they go out. So that's something we're looking at. We have 6 lakes in Louisville that are part of the food program. This is one that we're looking at. Again, the pond's not deep enough currently. We want to dig it out, dredge it out,
make it to where it'll support a fishery, and then, make sure there's no contaminant issues with the fish, where they're safe, if people do want to harvest them, that they can harvest the fish.
Is that something that you can do reasonably quick?
Yeah, yeah, the pond renovation, the deepening, is
Yeah.
gonna make it deep enough to where it'll support fish.
Are they gonna do that this summer?
Yeah, but what about the chemical pollution due to the, what is it? Well, not only that, but you know, you got what used to be a refinery.
So part of the plan is we're gonna renovate this pond, deepen it out, and then we are gonna restock the pond, and we're gonna come in.
The soil
and test-
itself, the soil itself.
I'm gonna let them speak on the soil testing here in a second.
But you say it needs to be deeper.
It needs to be deep enough to support the fish, because the pond is too shallow
It's
currently.
too shallow.
It's too shallow to support the fish, and there were past issues with contaminants that we're gonna ensure that.
The soil. What's it gonna take to make sure that the soil is clean?
That's what he's gonna talk about. But again, we are gonna restock fish, and then after those fish are restocked, we're gonna come back in, and Metro Parks is committee, that we're gonna retest those fish 3 to 5 years out, make sure that the tissue, that there's no contaminants, no dioxins, heavy metals, mercury, PCB, that the fish are safe.
Is there any way to test to make sure that before you restock the pond, that there's no?
That's what he's gonna talk about. We're gonna talk about this. So I just do the fish, and Fish and Wildlife is committed to add this program to our Fins program when everything does come back, as clean, as there are no issues with contaminants. And then we're gonna stock it initially, but then we're, at that point that the pond is tested, we're gonna step up stocking and start stocking a lot more fish, and bigger fish for their catchable, keeper size. And again, when you go out, you're not just going to be fishing and not catching, then you're going to have a chance to have success.
Folks, my name is Frank Terry, I'm the executive superfund branch for the Division of Waste Management. I've been kind of project manager over the site here for the last couple of years. I'm actually reduced my loss here, so we got this out of the way and we can answer the questions as you have in regards to soil contamination and that sort of thing.
I'm Chris Young, work with Brent. So there's been an investigation. 7 samples and soils around the pond and sample. We had some metals that were hit, some dioxin, maybe some pHs, but everything was below the levels of any concerns, much like something from your back. Yeah, we got the numbers.
I mean, they was on back then, they tell me I can